The legend says there was a man on the earth when it still was intact, a geek who loved Nintendo. His opinion on Sea of Stars started a new world war. Now the earth lies in ruins and everything is destroyed. The world-known podcast Ncast had him on a visit where he managed to set the world on fire. People did not know yet the consequences of his opinions, but it would appear that somewhere far away an avalanche of scandals started. Donation money disappeared, people lied, and many died mysteriously. If only he had played more than 15 hours, the war might not have started. What exactly happened will always be a mystery. And I hope that my last strength is strong enough to change the man's opinion on Sea of Stars. He usually loves games where you go on an epic journey. He didn't realize that this would be a big mistake as a gamer. I will try to change his feelings on Sea of Stars. Sorry if I fail.
I'm a kid from the 90s, and when you get old and you see everything goes digital and people are talking about graphic, how good graphic can be. It has to be realistic, you have to feel like you're in the world, and then you can sometimes feel like, please take me back to the time where it wasn't supposed to be like the real world, where you have to use your imagination to feel like you was in an adventure. Sometimes I like to use my own imagination while I'm playing, and it's the reason why I still think that Super Nintendo games and even sometimes N64 games holds up. There are some games that haven't aged well, but some games is still like, we can still feel your holes in your imaginations with a lot of adventure and things like that. And when I look at a game like Chrono Trigger, I'm like, this graphic still holds up 100%. And I love my Nintendo Switch, I really do. There are so many games on the machine, and actually the Switch is my favorite console of all time. But I still go around every day and daydreaming about, I wish I could go back in time and play Chrono Trigger again for the first time, or play Secret of Mana again for the first time, or play Golden Sun again for the first time. Some masterpieces in games they are games you have to play to call you a gamer, in my opinion. And I know some people may think, oh, now it's Fortnite and we love to play multiplayer. I love to play single player, play my little adventure, go on adventure. When you was a teenager boy that was sitting in your room, you had a hard time in school maybe, or you had homeworks to done, your parents maybe was divorced and you didn't have any friends. Sometimes you may feel like a shithole and you was hitting the rock bottom, and then you were sitting in your room, turn the light off, put your game in the machine on your Super Nintendo, and then you was just playing Chrono Trigger. And your mindset was traveling to another place where the forest has so many mysteries. Even though if you look with nowadays eyes and look at the forest in Chrono Trigger, it's just like a simple labyrinth in some way. But I remember back then, it was like a whole world almost. I feel like I was in the forest. I really did. And it's rare when games can make you feel like that again nowadays in 2024. It's rare. It really is. And maybe it's just my nostalgia thoughts about the games that make me want to go back in the time. But sometimes I really do think that the games back in the time had something else, have something nowadays games don't have. Sometimes newer games try to capture the magic they had back then. Sometimes they actually succeed with it. I think a game like The Messenger is a game that reminds me of the Ninja Gaiden back in the days. I feel like I'm a cool ninja trying through the worlds with a banger music. Oh, such a banger. And it's rare when games can make you feel like you're back in the 90s, the mid-90s. And I really love it. I'm a 90 kid. I really love that part in my life. Yeah, it's rare when a game can take you back to that time in your life. And sometimes there just come a game. I really do think that sometimes it's good to use your imagination when you're playing an old school game. Nowadays, when I play a game, it's like I feel like I'm playing a movie. If I tried to play on my Xbox Series X when I had it, I had sold it afterwards. But when I was playing at that machine, it's like the game tells everything. I just have to follow the road. I need my game sometimes to have some mysterious part in it. And even though the Switch isn't the most powerful machine, I still wish sometimes the games had those moments where I could look at a character in a castle and they had a sad marker over the head, and I'm like, I can feel the sadness. I can really feel the sadness in the pixel-mated character. And I think that's a part of the enjoyment. When I was a kid, I was reading Donald Duck books. And back then, I couldn't read that well. So I was trying to use my imagination to think about what the story was about. And sometimes I think the story in my head was even better when I learned to read and was understanding the story in the Donald Duck book. And sometimes I think, and that's the reason why I think sometimes it's good to use just your imagination to tell a story, to feel how the character is feeling, how his thoughts and feelings are. Sometimes I think it's important that a game don't tell everything, that you have to use your own imagination. And that's why I love indie games, and that's why I love retro games for the newer machines, because I can still use my own imagination. It's rare when a game come and just blew your socks off. Sometimes it happens. Eastward is a good example. Yeah, of course, The Messenger is a good example. Undertale is a great example too, even though it's a little older game. But sometimes I just wish I had a great RPG that can take me, that can try to handle up with Chrono Trigger and games like that. And then, I think it's around 2 years ago, I think it was back in 2022 or something like that, I heard about the game for the first time. I heard about a game called Sea of Stars. The people behind The Messenger, one of my favorite games for the Nintendo Switch, Sabotage Studio. And when I heard they was trying to make an old school JRPG with action command to remind us of the good old days back to Chrono Trigger, Super Mario RPG, Secret of Mana, games like that, with some of the music composed by Xenoblade Chronicles and Chrono Trigger. Xenoblade Chronicles is my favorite game of all time, the third one, and the first one is I'm not sure, I think it's my second favorite game. The Xenoblade series is my favorite series of all time, and the man behind the music, some of the music in Xenoblade, had made music for Sea of Stars. And we have the man behind music from Chrono Trigger. This can only be good, I thought. This can only be amazing. I was looking at the graphic when I saw the trailer for the first time, and I was like, this is incredible. Go away with Elden Ring. This is how graphics should look like. I really thought that. This is my kind of graphic. It was colorful. The mountains in the background was incredible. I was like, I have to play this game. And Sea of Stars became fast my most anticipated game for the rest of the year. Sadly, it got pushed, it was delayed, and I was like, okay, I'm fine with that. I just want the best experience of the game. And I'm kidding you not. My thoughts and feelings about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was my thoughts about that game was that it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. But even though back in 2023, Sea of Stars was still my most anticipated game that year. It was even more anticipated than Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Xenoblade the Future Redeemed DLC. So, how was the game then? You may think, some of you, Daniel, you made a top 10 for the last year. We didn't hear about Sea of Stars. Daniel, you haven't talked about Sea of Stars on the channel. I have talked about the game on a podcast, Endcast. And the reason why you haven't seen it on my top 10 list over the best game of 2023 was because that Sea of Stars was on the list over most disappointing games I played last year. So, yeah, you didn't see the list because I never made it. I made a list over my top 10 best games last year. And Sea of Stars didn't come on the list because I was so disappointed by the game. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Sea of Stars for the Nintendo Switch. My most anticipated game in 2023 and became my most disappointed game last year. Here is my big talk about Sea of Stars. I'm Daniel from the P-Wing. Let's go. So last year when the game got released, Sea of Stars, I was invited to a podcast, a Danish podcast called Endcast. And they were like, Daniel, why won't you be a guest in our podcast and we can talk about the game? We know you love JRPGs, we know you're looking forward to this game. And I was like, hell yeah, I can't wait to play the game and talk about it. So I was totally ready. So I picked up the digital version because the physical game of Sea of Stars came a little bit later, and I pre-ordered the I Am 8-bit version and the normal version afterwards. So I was playing through the digital version, and I was like, I think I'm ready to talk about my most anticipated game last year. So the hype was real, and in the podcast I was like, I really don't like Sea of Stars. And one of the people who is behind the podcast, she is called Anne. She was like, wow, that surprised me, and she really loves Sea of Stars. And she was like, Daniel, how long have you played of the game? And I was like, I played around 15 hours. So yeah, I didn't have a good time and have a lot of things that I don't like about the game. And she was like, please play a little bit further, because I told her where I stopped. And she was like, I think you will actually going to like it if you just play a little bit further. But I got to the point where I had played the game for 15 hours. And in my opinion, that's a long time to give a game a chance. And actually often I stop after around 5 to 8 hours. But because I looked so much forward to Sea of Stars, I was like, okay, I will give the game a long chance, and I'm going to talk about it in the podcast. So I needed to know the mechanics in the game and the ups and downs and things like that. Sadly, it was mostly only downs I had with the game. I didn't have a good time. I didn't. So I was like, am I really going to talk about Sea of Stars, my most anticipated game, and talk shit about it? And the rambling started by so I started to come with all my critique with the game, and in the end I really don't think I liked the game. It got from being disappointed to actually, in some kind of way, hated it. And that sounds weird and a little bit harsh, because it's not that I don't think the game was good when I was playing the 15 hours. It was like, the game does nothing for me. And it's like when you see a bad movie. Sometimes a really, really bad movie with bad acting, with bad music, with bad clipping and things like that can be more entertaining than a movie that just in middle of the road, that it isn't that bad, but it isn't good either, and it's still not just a watch worth, but it's just like nothing. It's just bland. And the thing that hurts me the most with Sea of Stars when I played last year was that it has so many right things going on, but sadly it was like it didn't take the next step to get the mechanics to get to the incredible level. It was like everything was just half-baked in my opinion, and sometimes I actually think some of the direction and the parts in the game was directly bad. So what did I not like about Sea of Stars? Almost everything. So yeah, it's crazy to think of that Sea of Stars won Game of the Year in the indie game parts. It won the best indie game of the year. People are talking so much about it. I got many flashbacks back from my podcast episode, and many people have asked me the question, why do we really don't like it? Is it just random rambling? And many people didn't understand my critique of the game. So what did I not like about Sea of Stars? And remember, this is the first 15 hours of the game I talk about. So when I think about a JRPG, I'm thinking about a story that grabbed me. From the start it began. Often when you play a JRPG, let's take Xenoblade, the first one. At the beginning of that game, there is a person who dies. And at the start, I get grabbed because I want to have revenge. I want to give a payback to that person who killed her. So I'm like, it's not that it necessarily have to be a person who died or something like that. You have to have a goal for your journey. And I'm feeling that in Sea of Stars, the beginning, the beginning in Sea of Stars is just dragging on for around 2 hours, in my opinion. I thought it felt like 2 hours. Maybe it's a little bit shorter, but they were just talking about, you're the chosen one, you are the moon, you are the sun, and you have to go on a journey to do something. Do something what? I was like, what am I supposed to do? The reason why you're going on this journey is like, I don't care. It's so pointless, the reason. And the story didn't grab me at the beginning, and the main character is like, I really dig the main girl character, the blue girl. I'm very bad at names in games, and often also in real life. I always forget people's names. But for now on, let's say the main guy is the sun guy, the main girl is the moon girl, and then we have the cooking man. So we have 3 main characters at the beginning. Your party will evolve, and there will come more to the party after you come through the game. You're coming further in the game, but at the beginning you only are 3 persons: the sun guy, the moon girl, and the cooking guy. And at the beginning I was like, okay, the cooking guy is pretty cute, he's likable. The moon girl has an awesome design, she's badass, and the sun guy was like so generic. I never connected with him. I feel he was like, nah. But still, it was awesome character design in many ways. So the story didn't grab me, and I was like, okay, maybe the gameplay will hold up, and I think the graphic looks awesome, so I can't wait to explore the world. And after the beginning, and you was taken on the journey, and you were talked about, you're the chosen one, you are going on a journey. So you went into the overworld, and that's look absolutely beautiful. It looks like, yeah, Chrono Trigger. And then you enter an area, and the real game begin. So the first thing that hit me was, I'm a music guy. So I was like, yeah, The music sounds good, but it wasn't anything special at the beginning. It was like, yeah, it's a classic retro 16-bit tune music with some little twist and twinkle, and yeah, it was catchy, but it wasn't that I was humming along. The background, the surroundings was absolutely beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. I think the best impression the game gave me at the start was the graphic. It really holds up. But sadly, this is a great example why graphic can't save a game. The world you was exploring at the beginning of Sea of Stars was so soulless and linear. Started from the beginning, and then there were many twists and turns down the road, and you got ups and downs. You got down the stairs, down to a cave, and then you came up, and then you saw a beautiful waterfall. The background was beautiful. There was trees floating in the air, and some sparklings around the world, and everything was so detailed, and there were chests over in the corner and things like that. But the whole thing just fell apart when I discovered that it was almost like it felt for me, it felt like a linear corridor. Even though the world seems very big and it was just begging you to explore it, it was so linear. It's not like in Xenoblade or Chrono Trigger where you could explore every nook and cranny in every corner and find a secret thing, or in Golden Sun. Every time you visit a town in Golden Sun, there was something puzzle in the town, or every time you explore the world, when you enter an area, there are so many secrets, there are so many puzzle things you have to solve. But in Sea of Stars at the beginning, it was like, yeah, I can see a treasure over in the right corner, but it's so clearly how I got to the treasure. So in some way, it's very impressive that the level design can hide the very obvious way to get to the chest. So in some way, it tricks you to think that you're exploring the world, but at the same time, you are not exploring the world. There's just you are feeling it when you are trying to climb up a mountain, and there are small passage you have to walk through, but you are going to be very careful not to fall, but you still just walk. It's just a cool, beautiful animation. But it's not like you have to be careful when you walk, and then there is a rope you have to be careful to walk on. It's not like that you can fall down or things like that. You're still just walking. So you feel like you're exploring the world without doing it in some way. And there are some small puzzles, but the puzzles is so basic, it's so safe. So yeah, you're wandering around in a beautiful area, but at the same time, I have a feeling that it's the graphic, the beautiful graphic that is blinding me to not see through the very basic level design and the very basic mechanics you are puzzling with. But while you are exploring the world and try to find some treasures that are very easy to find and not very difficult to explore the world and find all the rainbow sea shield and things like that, you are coming by some enemies who wants to attack you. So Daniel, how is the combat system? Well, I don't like it. But isn't it very similar to Chrono Trigger? In some way, yeah. But the sad part for me is that at the beginning, the combat system is so extremely simple. So you're going to use your magic attack and things like that. But the sad part, you only have from the fire guy, you have the special attack where you can use, where you take some flames and make it to a big fireball and cast it through the air and attack the enemies. And then you have the moon girl who is using a moon boomerang to bounce between all the enemies, where you have to push A every time you are getting the boomerang back at you. Then you have to push A and to throw back to another enemy. So you use the two magic attack all the time, and it gets so repetitive and the enemies take so long to beat. And I was like, get over it already. So after I used the special attacks, I was like, but the damage they take isn't that much. The damage they take isn't that much more than a regular attack. So why don't I just use the regular attack, which are very fast to use? There's a reason why I don't use the regular attack. And that's because over the enemies, there are little markers that says, often there are around 3 to 4 to 5 emblems over the character from the enemies. It can show you a knife, it can show you a sun or a moon. That means that you have to hit the enemy with a knife and a sun or a moon to break through his barrier. If you hit all the 3 things before the enemy attacks, you will break down his barrier, then the enemy will forget his attack. So that's the puzzle mechanic in the combat system, which should be very great, but sadly is every time you just walk into a battle, you try to break the barrier, but sometimes you don't have turns enough to that you can use all the attacks to break down the barrier, so you're ending up just ignore it. What's the reason to break down the barrier when you don't have turns enough or magic enough to break down the barrier? Because if you only have 1 emblem left, the enemy still do the special attack. Yeah, and of course it takes less damage, but still it uses a powerful attack that just almost kill you instantly. So you are bouncing between using special attacks and healing all the time, and you never use the regular attack unless you are boring and just want to end it quickly. And there are a lot of enemies. And the sad part is that there are some cool animation while you are in the combat system, but sadly they just drags on. As an example, in Golden Sun, they have animation too, but it's just so quick and snappy. You use your regular attack, he's just flying by, and if you use a special attack, there comes some sparkle in the sword and you just smash it, and then you can use some even more special attacks, who takes a little bit longer time, but the important part is that it's only the very special attacks that takes a long time to use, not the just small magic and things like that. The enemies are the worst, because as an example, you are meeting 3 crabs. All 3 crabs are using the special attack, where they throw out a bubble, then the bubble come over to one of your characters, they lift you up in the bubble spring, and you fall down on the ground, and then you got hit. And you have to see that 3 times in a row. And every attack takes around 6 seconds. And there are so many enemies in the overworld, and I feel like, let's get the battle over with. It just takes too long to come through a battle. And the next thing I have to say about the combat system is that the level up system is just too far between. It feels like the game has set the difficulty. It's not like that you could get over leveled, which I love. As an example, in Xenoblade 3, you come to a big area in chapter 3 in Xenoblade where you can go south, north, east, west, and just explore the world. And then you come to an area where there are just tough enemies and you get your ass kicked. But if you grind out a little bit, maybe you can clear one of the enemies in the difficult area, and then you get a lot of experience point, and you can just roll through the area you wasn't supposed to explore yet. But in Sea of Stars, the world is so linear that every area is like mapped for you. It's not that you can explore the world in the first 15 hours. You go from the one area to another area. It's like you are in a Super Mario 3 world level design. So yeah, you come into an area where you can explore a little bit, but when you're done with that area, it's very clearly where you are going to go next. Then there you can fish a little bit, and there are maybe as a town, but the next area with enemies, that's the only way you can go. And you can't backtrack at the beginning at the same as in all other games. Like in Chrono Trigger, you can still backtrack in many ways, but in Sea of Stars, you're just locked to just continue. It's like a clear linear road, and it feels like a cover-up for a linear game. So I think many people is blinded by the graphic, and was blinded by how the level design tries to hide a chest that seems difficult to discover and seems difficult to find, but actually is pretty easy when you think about it. And then the combat system is just so basic, but at the same time too difficult in some ways, and it's just wasting your time. So I was like, okay, I don't like the story. The level designs feels like a cover-up. The combat system is just dragging on. And the worst part for me at the beginning, the first 15 hours I played, was the pacing of the game. The pacing is just bad. It's simply just bad. You have a storyline you have to follow, and the main storyline is just pretty bad. As I told you, it's not a very crazy told story. There isn't anything that grabbing me, but between the main story that you try to follow and try to get invested in, there are some side quests that no, it's not a side quest actually. It's still a part of the main story, but you have to do some side things between the important things in the game. So it feels like you are doing busy work, and it's not like it's a side quest. It's still a part of the main quest, but it feels like a side quest you have to do, and that annoys me. I have to take a side quest to find a special item that I only could find if I did the side quest. But people that don't want to do that side quest could just follow the main story and continue. But I like to be powerful. I like to be over-leveled. So if I wanted to take a side quest and do some side jobs and things like that, I feel like I'm a master when I do that. But when the game actually wants you to do the side quest, which are part of the main quest, it just feels like busy work. And that's the important space between a side quest and a main story. It's okay that a side quest have busy works. I think that in my opinion, it's okay when a side quest says go out and kill 30 of these type of enemies, then I will reward you with some prize. So you're talking with a guy, go out to kill some enemies and come back and get a reward. It's a side quest, it's okay. But if that was a part of the main story, it's a bad part of the main story. And there are so many times in Sea of Stars that you have to go somewhere to find an item, to go back to the person that asked you to get the item, to open up a gate so you can continue the story. And the next thing, after you have come to the first new big town, you finally got your little ship, not the main ship, but you got a little ship to travel overseas to explore another island. And this part is one of the worst moments I ever had in any JRPGs I had played. And at that part, it was the time I actually stopped the game, because this area, the spooky Halloween ghost time area, is one of the worst area I have ever played in any video games. Holy shit. Okay, first of all, this area just drags on and on and on. And there are so many times you got told that you have to find a thing to get back to another thing to get to another thing. And one of the big complaints I have with this area is that, for the first of all, there are a lot of busy work, but the second thing I really hate about this part is that it's so fucking dark. And I know it sounds like a weird thing, but in my opinion, you can't play this area while it's daytime, unless you cover everything up and live in a cave and you're close to a TV. The area is so fucking dark that you can't see everything, and it's just dragging on and on and on. And the game is so beautiful with all the colors and shadows effect and lighting effects otherwise. But in this area, it's like, what was the level, what was this design in this area? It's just so dark, gloomy, and boring to look at. And then people can say, why don't you just get an OLED TV screen? Then you can see all the darkness very clearly. And I'm like, yeah, I have a QLED, I don't have a OLED, but no. I don't have to buy an OLED TV screen to have a great experience with the game. They have to adjust the darkness, and the darkness is so it's so bad in that area. You can't see anything. So I was trying to cover up the light in the living room, and otherwise I was playing while it was night, because I couldn't see anything. And at that time it was late summer, so it got pretty late light and late night. So there was a time while I was playing that I was like, I need to wait to play further because I can't see dog shit. So yeah, and that area was just dragging on and on and on, and I have some problems with the town side mission and things like that. So overall, I was done. So when I was guesting the podcast, I was like, I'm done now. I can't take it anymore. I was looking so much forward to Sea of Stars, and there wasn't anything that grabbed me. The story was boring. The combat system was simple and dragging on. The pacing in the game was bad. The music was fine, but still, the graphic was awesome. I like the graphic. It's one of the most beautiful pixel art I've ever seen. And some of the area was just unplayable in my opinion, and was dragging on too much. The pacing of the game, the side mission, there were so many problems. So I ended up stopped playing the game. And I was like, I need to love this game. Why don't I like it? It felt like that this game was built for me. But even though I didn't like it, and it felt so wrong. So, is this just a talk about Sea of Stars where I try to smash it down? Because I know many people love Sea of Stars. After some time, I got my physical version, and I promised people that I will give it a second chance. I start from the beginning. So, what do I think about the game now? Because I have completed the game 100%. So now I can talk. So if people don't think that I could talk about the game before, while I was playing only 15 hours, in my opinion, is a lot of time put into a game that I didn't enjoy. But did Anne told the truth back then? She told me at the podcast, Daniel, you have to play further. I think you will come to a point where you actually are going to like it. So after the 15 hours, the game totally changed. I have now completed Sea of Stars, and what have changed after I finished the game? Have I made a turnaround with the game? Do I really love it now? It's rare that you can change your opinion on a game after you have played 15 hours and you actually didn't like it. In some way you actually hated it. If there were one thing I wished I could change, then I wish that I had listened to Anne. And she told me, please Daniel, play a little bit more. I think you actually gonna like it after a little bit of more time. Oh man, if I just had listened. Because I think Sea of Stars is a little shining masterpiece of an indie game. So, what did happen? How can I go from almost hating the game to totally fell in love? So what did change? Almost everything. And let's start from the... It's difficult for me not to spoil the game for you guys that haven't played. Because one of the things I really loved about the game is a big spoiler. Let's start with the story in the game. And I will of course not spoil the game. One of the main critique I had with the game was that the story wasn't captivated me. It felt like there was no point exploring the world, what was my goal and things like that. And you come to a point in the game where I literally cried. If someone had told me back when I've played for the first time, the first 15 hours, that someone come up to me and said, Daniel, this story is gonna make you cry, I would have said to him or her, you're crazy, you're stupid. You are totally stupid. There are only rare games that can make me cry, like Zelda, Xenoblade, and Gress. But Sea of Stars, with the story that I didn't move me at all, how can that that game make me gonna cry. Ladies and gentlemen, I was tearing up. You come to a point where it's like the developer was like, this is the thing we were building up to. I'm still feel that the way the story got told at the beginning was a very weird way to tell it, but it paid off in the end. So you have to stick around with the game, because the payoff in the end, no, in the middle of the game actually, and to the end, is incredible. It was like, it was hitting me so hard. And I must say, the characters in the game evolve on you. You like them more and more, and the personality gets deeper. And trust me, it's not like that I think the main characters are totally amazing. It's more the side characters that grow on you. And actually, I must say, the moon guy and the moon girl and the sun guy, they actually hit me at the moment. So I was afraid that the two main characters, the sun and the moon, guy and girl, I wouldn't connect with them, but I ending up actually liking them really much actually. So the side characters was really strong, and there come enemy in the game that are very, very awesome. And there is a moment in the game where you're around midway in the game where there are a little cutscene with two of the people where they go into another world. I can say that without spoiling. And the scene that's opened up at that moment, it's totally amazing. I got goosebumps all over my body, and the music complemented the scene, and it's hard to describe the melody. I won't spoil it, but when you come to a point in the game where one of the characters and the main badass character, the evil character, go into another dimension, another world, that moment, sink that in. Feel that magic right there, because it's a strong moment. And it's like the game after that is just building on that, and it got more and more epic. So the story in the game is like splitting up in 3 parts. We have the beginning of the game, and I stopped after 15 hours where the part 1 ended. So I think part 1 has a horrible pacing. I still think that after I completed the game, after I really can say I love the game, the pacing in the first chapter is horrible in my opinion. The second part 2, is like if you took a part of Chrono Trigger, you took a part of Secret of Mana, you took a part of Xenoblade, some things from Xenoblade, and melded together like a juicy monster energy drink. And then you let it cook, and you have Chapter 2 in Sea of Stars. Chapter 2 is absolutely incredible in every ways. Almost everything I will compliment from now on is from Chapter 2. So when I talk about the level design after a little bit, is in the part. That's all the compliments I give at that part is from Chapter 2. All the music I will talk about later is from Chapter 2. So I must say, Chapter 2 is one of the greatest gaming moments I have ever experienced. Chapter 1, no, I don't like that chapter. And it's around 15 hours, so it's a long chapter. I can appreciate it after I played Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, because there's a reason why we have it. So what happens after Chapter 2? And of course, I still won't spoil it. The game could almost end at Chapter 2. I heard some people that say, I wish Chapter 3 wasn't included in the game, but I must disagree. I think Chapter 3 has some big moments and is an important part of the story. And I think actually a Chapter 3 make the game stand out from other games. I think they have a great moment in the Chapter 3, but I must admit, it don't hold the candle to Chapter 2. It's still a good chapter 3, but in the end, it was like it was dragging on too long. I wish the game was a little bit shorter. I still like chapter 3, but it was too long. So, in the end, I think the story is, at the end, it was incredible. And there was some great twist and touching moments. And I really was blown away by the ending. The end boss fight is incredible. They mix some gameplay mechanics up at the last moment, which I think was amazing. So yeah, it was a very touching moment. So we have talked about the story, but what about the gameplay, Daniel? You hated the combat system in Chapter 1. Have they changed that? Yeah. In Chapter 2, everything, all my problems with the combat system changed. And that goes further into Chapter 3. The combat system got even better in Chapter 3. So how can it get so much better that you're going from hating it to actually love it? Well, you get more characters in the party. So you can shift between your characters, and I won't spoil any of the characters in the footage I have shown you while I'm showing gameplay from the game. So you have one character who can push an enemy back, so it takes a turn more before they can attack. So the problem I had before, when you can break down the barrier before they have the turn, is totally gone now. You can just use that character and push the enemies back so they have one more turn before they can use the attack. Incredible. So I have a problem with the special attacks. You get more special attacks. So you don't have to use the moon boomerang all the time, and you got so much more powerful that sometimes you can just use the normal attack and you get some golden sun, incredible attacks there, and they are so fucking epic when you use it. And it reminds me back to Golden Sun, where you use your gins to evolve them and use a big attack. Oh, it's incredible. So that part is totally changed too. So what about the music? The first chapter has some bangers, like the cave music. I really love that. You can hear that now. So as you can hear, that melody is totally incredible, and that was one of the only melodies that really stuck on me. And I thought it was weird because I really loved the music from The Messenger. The people behind The Messenger is the same people that made Sea of Stars, and I think the soundtrack was amazing. And I heard that Sea of Stars should take place in the same world for many years ago. So I was like, okay, it's incredible, it's in the same world, so probably we will hear some of the same music. But it was all the new music until we hit the autumn level. And I was like, holy shit. There was more. The Messenger music. It was a remix melody from The Messenger put into Sea of Stars, and they did it even better than it was in The Messenger. Holy shit. But yeah, you can listen to it. the last problem I had with Sea of Stars in Chapter 1 was the linearity over the levels. So I never felt like that I could backtrack in Chapter 1. So I couldn't explore the same area again if I felt I was missing something. But in Chapter 2, you can backtrack again. You get a ship, you can sail around over this big ocean. And in Chapter 3, they open even more up for the world. So you can travel around the world even more easy, even easier. So you could visit older places again, and there was something changed. And yeah, the whole game's just feel more organic, and I love to travel through the game. I must admit, I think the loading time in the Switch version is pretty long. So when you are going from point A to point B and you're going to travel through the world, you actually are sitting a lot of times just waiting for the loading screen. But I think it's different with the PlayStation 5 version. But the Switch version has some long loading time, especially in the end where you are backtracking a lot. So yeah, the level design get more opened, and I think it really helps the game to feel more adventurous. So I don't feel I'm just playing through some Mario levels. So I really like that part. It still has some pacing issues while you're traveling through the world. I wish that you could be in an area and just exit the area without going to the end of the screen. Yeah, it's amazing. It's not often that I turn around with a game. I'm a guy that really stick to my feelings and thoughts about a game often. And sadly, I have not only that part in me with games, I also have it with people in the real life. If I sometimes feel that a person do a wrong move, or I get angry at a person, I have a difficult time to take them into me again. I push people away after some time, and I really hope that I can change that in me. I really hope I can give people a second chance or a third chance. After a fourth chance, I think it's done, but I have a problem that if I feel a person had made a wrong move just one time, I can be like, I'm stepping back now, and I'm not sure you can come into my life again. So that's a horrible thing. And at the same time, I have a part in me that's just, if I don't like a thing, then afterwards I say, no, it's not for me. I really think Sea of Stars has learned me something, that even though you think you have given the game enough time, even though you think that you have given a friend enough opportunities to say, I'm sorry, I made a wrong move, or something like that, I try to picture the way I feel. So please understand if you can follow me. I'm not sure. But even though I was sure I didn't like the game, or even though I was sure that I couldn't take that person into my life again, it was like Sea of Stars showed me that even though you have felt you have tried the game, you have given many chances, it can still turn around. Like a person can still change. Even me, even my friends and people like that. If someone make missteps, they can still change. And sometimes I wish I could go back to a game that I had told people I don't like that game. For an example, I played around 2 hours of Persona 5 Royal. And I have stempled that game as a game I don't like. But maybe I should try it more than 2 hours and give it a real chance, like Sea of Stars. So I really think that Sea of Stars has led me to appreciate something. It has learned me to give a game, or give a person, or give a thought, or give a feeling a second chance. And that's a thing I have to remember. But how do I not ending up forgetting that? Maybe I have an idea. Maybe I should get Sea of Stars printed in my soul and body. You're crazy, Daniel. You didn't like the game at the start, but you love it now, and you have learned something. Maybe it's a good lesson for
Oh my.
We are back again, and I'm a t-shirt guy. Let's take this off. Let's take this off. That tattoo, Sea of Star tattoo, will remind me that I have to give games, people, things in life, thoughts or feelings a second chance. Maybe you will see it in different light this time, as I did with Sea of Stars. Yeah, well, I had a hard time to make this video because I was unsure how to make it. So should I make a review or should I just sit down and talk? And I think sometimes just sitting down and talk is the best way for me to describe my feelings and thoughts. So yeah. And in the end, Sea of Stars made me think about so many good memories about JRPGs and all the games I played through my life. And there is one game that Sea of Stars really wanted me to play afterwards. And actually, that's a game that have a dark story on me. And I will, of course, never tell about that story. It's too personal and too dark in some way. And I don't think every people can accept it or see me in the same light afterwards. Maybe some will, but I don't hope people actually would change the way they see me afterwards. They have a picture on who I am and things like that, but maybe they will think about me after if I told the story. Maybe some will think, wow, that's weird. Why did you do that? And things like that. So yeah. Or should I tell it? No, I've just told myself I will never tell that story. I will never talk about that game. It's too personal. Or maybe... Or should I? I think it's time. I think I have to tell my most personal story in my life. I don't think I'm ready, but maybe I am. Follow me.